We have already dealt with the process of formation of sperm. Spermatogenesis takes place in male body and it results in the formation of a sperm. For the formation of a baby, along with sperm, one more ingredient is required, and that ingredient is the egg or an ovum. Without egg, you can't just create a baby from just a sperm, you need egg as well. We have already learned about the process of formation of sperm. Why not see the process of formation of egg as well? So in this particular video, we are going to see the very basics of the process of formation of egg, or the very basics of oogenesis. So let's begin the video. The topic of today's video is oogenesis, where oo refers to egg and genesis refers to generation. So oogenesis is the generation of an egg or an ovum. Where does oogenesis take place? Oogenesis takes place in the ovary of the female reproductive organ. Ovary is the primary reproductive organ. It's called so because it is where the process of egg formation or oogenesis take place. If we take a transverse section of this ovary, we can see that the wall of the ovary is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. However, the simple cuboidal epithelium lining the wall of the ovary is modified. Why is it modified? It is modified to form gamete, that is the egg. Since this simple cuboidal epithelium lining the wall of the ovary is modified to form an egg, it's also called germinal epithelium. Why germinal epithelium? Because it contains germ cells, and germ cells are the cells that are responsible for the formation of any gamete. That's why germinal epithelium. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of this germinal epithelium and explain the process of oogenesis using that germinal epithelium. What we have here is a piece of germinal epithelium. As you can see in the diagram, the germinal epithelium contains cube-like cells that are arranged in a single layer, so also called simple cuboidal epithelium. This simple cuboidal epithelium is modified to form gametes. That is, it contains germ cells that give rise to gametes. That's why also called germinal epithelium. All these cells present in the germinal epithelium are germ cells, that is, they give rise to gametes. And among these various germ cells, I'm going to take one. So this germ cell is the one that I have picked. So here's the germ cell that I just picked. This diploid cell from the germinal epithelium that will give rise to egg is the primordial germ cell. See, it's called a germ cell because it gives rise to gamete, that is the egg, and it's called a primordial germ cell because it is present at the very beginning. This is the first germ cell that is responsible for the formation of egg. This particular germ cell, this diploid cell, gives rise to other germ cells, and these other germ cells then continue the process of oogenesis to form egg. But this is the one that is present at the very beginning. That's why called primordial germ cell. In short, you can also call it PGC. So, what does primordial germ cell do? Primordial germ cell divides itself to form other germ cells. So here's one germ cell, here's other germ cell. Each of them again divide to form more germ cells. Here's another germ cell, here's another germ cell, here's another germ cell, here's another germ cell. All these germ cells that are formed from primordial germ cell by the process of cell division are diploid, same as primordial germ cell. The number of chromosome has not changed. The primordial germ cell is diploid, and so are the germ cells that arise from the primordial germ cell. And that's exactly why the cell division taking place here is mitosis, cause mitosis is an equational cell division. That is, mitosis does not change the number of chromosomes. The various germ cells that are formed from primordial germ cell by the process of mitosis are called oogonia. Oo refers to, well, egg, gonia refers to offspring. So these cells are going to have egg as their offspring. In this particular step or phase, primordial germ cell has simply multiplied its number into many other germ cells. Basically, multiplication of the germ cell has occurred, and that is exactly why this phase is called multiplication phase. So, at the end of multiplication phase, one primordial germ cell, with the help of mitosis, gives rise to many oogonia, which are also germ cells. Among the many oogonia formed by a single primordial germ cell, only few enter the next step. So among these 4 oogonia, I am going to select this third oogonia. This third oogonium enters the next step. In the next step, the cell simply intakes, devours, eats as much nutrition as possible. It feeds on as much nutrition as possible and grows in size. Basically, the growth of the cell occurs. The genetic material present inside the cell remains the same, but the size of the cell increases due to the intake of the nutrition. So what has happened? The size of the cell has increased due to the intake of the nutrition by the cell. And this cell that is formed is called primary oocyte. Since in this particular step, the number of chromosome has not changed, simply the cell has grown in size, it's called growth phase. Okay, after growth phase. See, here's the thing. Our aim, or the aim of the primordial germ cell, whatever, is to form an egg, which is a gamete. And gametes are haploid. That is, they contain half the number of chromosomes present in a diploid cell. In diploid cells, there are 2 sets of chromosomes. In haploid cell, there's only 1 set of chromosome. Now, here's the problem. Primary oocyte is diploid. It contains 2 sets of chromosome. But egg is haploid. It contains 1 set of chromosome. Then what is the process with the help of which a diploid cell can form a haploid cell? What's the process? A diploid cell needs to form a haploid cell. What process will it go through? It goes through the process of meiosis. So primary oocyte goes through the process of meiosis to form haploid egg. And this phase of the maturation of diploid primary oocyte into haploid egg by the process of meiosis is called maturation phase. Maturation phase. So what occurs in maturation phase? In maturation phase, the diploid primary oocyte matures into haploid egg. The process that it goes through is meiosis. And we all know that meiosis has 2 steps, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So primary oocyte first goes through meiosis 1. And meiosis 1 is a reductional step. That is, the number of chromosome halves or reduces, as a result of which one primary oocyte gives rise to one small haploid polar body and another comparatively larger haploid secondary oocyte. Polar body is not essential, it's not important. What's important is secondary oocyte, because secondary oocyte is responsible for the formation of egg. Since this polar body is formed first, it's called first polar body. As simple as that. Okay, so meiosis 1 is over. Next is meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 is same as mitosis because it is equational as well. After meiosis 2, the number of chromosome does not change, it remains the same. So one polar body which is the first polar body, gives rise to other polar bodies that are haploid, and the secondary oocyte gives rise to second polar body and ovum. This is ovum. This is the second polar body. It is the ovum that gets fertilized by the sperm to form a zygote, which later develops into a baby. So this is the whole process of oogenesis. Let me revise it for you. First, the germinal epithelium contains germ cells. Among the many germ cells, I took one germ cell. This germ cell is obviously diploid because all the structures in female body are diploid. So this diploid germ cell, it's called primordial germ cell. Why? It's called germ cell because it gives rise to gamete, and it's called primordial germ cell because it is present at the very beginning. This primordial germ cell goes through the process of mitosis to form many other germ cells. These other germ cells formed by the process of mitosis of primordial germ cell are called oogonia. And this particular phase where the primordial germ cell multiplies into other germ cells is called multiplication phase. At the end of multiplication phase, many oogonia are formed, out of which only few enter the next stage. Let's suppose this particular oogonium enters the next step. In the next step, the oogonium intakes as much nutrition as possible and grows in size, so-called growth phase. At the end of growth phase, primary oocyte is formed. For the primary oocyte, which is diploid, to form a haploid ovum, it has to go through the process of meiosis. And this process, or this phase where the primary oocyte, which is diploid, matures into haploid ovum, is called maturation phase. In maturation phase, meiosis of primary oocyte takes place. Meiosis contains two steps, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. At the end of meiosis 1, one primary oocyte gives rise to one first polar body and another secondary oocyte. At the end of meiosis 2, first polar body gives rise to two other polar bodies, and one secondary oocyte gives rise to second polar body and ovum. It is the ovum that gets fertilized by sperm during the formation of zygote. So that's the process of oogenesis. However, there are some important stuff that you need to know. The process of oogenesis is not this simple. It contains much more complicated phases. And all these complicated phases, I'll explain you in crystal clear in the next video. But for now, understand this much. The process of formation of sperm starts in male as soon as the boy hits puberty. However, the process of formation of ovum or egg or oogenesis starts in girl even before birth. Achamma, surprising. It starts before birth. So there's the female fetus inside the womb of the pregnant mother, right? Inside the ovary of this female fetus, the process of oogenesis or the process of formation of egg begins. There's the primordial germ cell inside the ovary of the fetus, which gives rise to many oogonia, out of which few oogonia enter the growth phase and give rise to primary oocyte. And this primary oocyte enters meiosis 1 to form secondary oocyte. However, I repeat, however, it starts in fetus, but can a fetus, girl fetus, get impregnated? Or hypothetically speaking, can a girl fetus get impregnated or a girl baby get impregnated? No, obviously not. But why? Even though the process of egg formation has already started, why can't she get impregnated before puberty? Why is it? Cause, sure, the process of oogenesis starts before birth in fetus, but it stops or takes a halt or halts at diplotin phase of prophase 1 of meiosis 1. What do I mean by that? So inside the ovary of the fetus, the process of oogenesis has reached till primary oocyte. After this growth phase, the primary oocyte enters meiosis 1. In meiosis 1, there's prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. Inside prophase 1, there's a phase called diplotin phase. The primary oocyte stops at the diplotin phase of prophase 1 of meiosis 1. That is, primary oocyte is unable to form secondary oocyte. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are playing an offline game. I repeat, an offline game and not an online game. As you are playing the offline game, your mom calls you to have dinner. What do? You pause the offline game, go have dinner, return back, resume the offline game, and start playing again. The same thing happens in the fetus as well. In the ovary of the fetus, the game starts. The process of oogenesis starts. But the mother tells the fetus, nah, don't make eggs so soon. You are still too young to be making eggs. So the fetus pauses the game of oogenesis after it reaches meiosis 1 stage. As a result, it is unable to reach secondary oocyte stage. As soon as the baby girl hits puberty, it resumes the game again. That is, meiosis 1 resumes and secondary oocyte formation take place. So when does it resume? It resumes at puberty. Okay, I'm gonna explain it once more. So you are playing an offline game, not an online game, offline game. As you are playing the offline game, your mom calls you to have dinner. What do? You pause the offline game, go have dinner, return back, and resume playing the game. Similarly, in the girl fetus as well, the game is going on. The ovary of the fetus is going through the process of oogenesis. The fetus is playing the game, but the mom tells the girl to stop the game. No, she doesn't want her baby to be making eggs so soon. She's still a child. She's not old enough. So the baby girl stops the game at meiosis 1. Once the baby girl hits puberty, the game resumes and finally secondary oocyte formation takes place. Another point. Secondary oocyte arrests at metaphase of metaphase 2 of meiosis 2. Okay, at puberty the game resumes and secondary oocyte formation takes place. Now this secondary oocyte enters meiosis 2. In meiosis 2 there's prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2 and telophase 2. The process of meiosis 2 again pauses or halts or stops at metaphase 2 of meiosis 2. If the secondary oocyte does not receive any sperm, it simply degenerates and gets absorbed by the wall of the uterus. But if secondary oocyte detects a sperm, the process of meiosis 2 resumes and secondary oocyte rapidly, immediately completes meiosis 2 to form an ovum so that it can get fertilized by the sperm. So it forms ovum or forms egg when sperm is detected. To all the girls out there, this is the reality. You are single. You don't have a boyfriend. You have a pathetic, okay, you don't have a pathetic life, but you are single. So if there's no boy coming to meet you, no boy with whom you are in relationship with, then why would you even waste time putting makeup on, right? You don't put makeup since no boy is coming to visit you. You don't have to impress anyone. But as soon as you finally get a boyfriend, a newly made boyfriend, you start putting on makeup in order to impress him, right? Similarly, secondary oocyte as well, since it's not receiving any sperm, why will it go through the process of meiosis? Why will it go through all that rubble to make the egg? It simply stops at meiosis 2. But as soon as it detects a sperm, a spicy sperm, secondary oocyte immediately changes itself to form ovum so that the sperm can fertilize it. And that's the reality as well. And that's it for the basics of oogenesis. Again, this is very basic, but the next video is going to troubleshoot all your problems. It's going to clear all your doubts, everything, all the so-called complicated ovarian cycles, how these walls are formed, what happens before birth, what happens after birth, why is oogenesis this complicated. It's not, trust me, and wait for the next video.